Hey guys, it's your boy R's back at it again with another video. This is future R's. I recorded all of this content September 3rd, and then I ended up updating it after the live stream on September 12th. I got updated information, and therefore I made some updates. Overwhelming majority of the information remained the same from my tier list, but I wanted to make it as up to date as possible. Additionally, the biggest difference between Pride style tier list and mine is that I am predicting how good these characters are going to be by the end of version 3.8. I think a point of confusion, and this is my bad, was not explaining that clearly. So not by the end of like version 3.5 or 3.6 or the end of the patch, but actually the end of version 3.8. Passing it off to past me now. Is it insanely difficult to make predictions that far ahead? Of course, but I'm still going to try anyway. I'm not a theory crafter. I'm doing this for fun, and I just want to leverage my own experience of making correct predictions in the past and being a day one player into making a sort of fun tier list like this. So with all that said, pause, read this, pause, read this. And for those that are returning to my channel, one of the major changes that I made was to the Trailblazer tier. Long story short, I made it so that you have to be meta dominant for 6+ months in order to be entered into this tier. About it, if you want to read into more detail, feel free to pause and read this as well. This is the last slide. With all that out the way, let's get into the tier list. Alright, here we are. Now, what I was going to do moving forward for these tier lists is I was going to try to break them into parts. But the last time that I tried that, I end up getting completely screwed over via my recording tool. It messed up with all my audio, so I'm essentially just going to one take this and try to go through this as fast as I possibly can. There's a lot of characters to go through. I'm gonna try to keep all my explanations to 2 minutes or less, and even then it would still be very long. So with all that out the way, we're gonna start with the sustains, and we're gonna start with my GOAT Luocha. Still one of the most solid healers in the game. Came out in the 1.0s. I still own him at E0 S0. I obviously don't use him that much anymore, but he is still one of the best pure healers in the game. He still has auto cleanses. He can also remove the occasional buff off the enemy, and he's generally just a very solid character. He will never be bad from my perspective. He's just never going to be like the best, obviously. So we're gonna put him in tier 1, and I think that is more than fair. Next up, we got Huohuo. I am still somewhat on the fence about whether or not I want to put this character in tier 0 or not. My feeling is tier 0.5. I haven't seen enough to justify putting her in that tier. She obviously is a very good healer. She provides energy, provides attack. But one of her greatest shortfalls right now is her healing. And with how strong these enemies are and how hard they hit you, she doesn't do as well from a sustain perspective as I would like. She is a much better buffer, weirdly enough, than she is at actually sustaining your team. And that is what's really keeping me from putting her at tier 0. So I think that she has a lot of utility, but because she's not the best sustained on this list, I'm putting her at tier 0.5. Next, we're going to go with Lingsha. Tier 0, still one of the best sustains in the game. Great heals, can do good damage if you're running her in a super break team. And also, super break is going to be getting a buff, allegedly. I don't want to go into too much detail, but for those that look at the dreams, you already know what I'm talking about, which means that the value that she had earlier in this patch is just going to become even greater by the end of the version and leading into the 4.x's. So if you decide to invest in the super break, don't despair too much. Your salvation is coming. You just have to be patient and you just gotta wait for it. So if that's something you're really interested in, I would recommend you start saving your Jades now so that you don't have to worry about coming up short when those supports inevitably come out. Next is none other than Hyacine. I think Hyacine right now is the best sustain in the game. She is utterly ridiculous. She does way too much damage. Your team doesn't die when she's on the field. She can cleanse. I don't know. This character is just ridiculous. I never expected this character to be so good. Definitely one of the best pulls that I've made on my account thus far as a free-to-play. And I think that anybody that skipped her made a terrible mistake. Even without you having a HP scaling focus, she is generally that good. She is that insane. So I'm putting her at tier 0, and I don't think anyone's going to really question me on that one. Now moving on to Dan Heng's new form. I think that this is also going to be tier 0. I am very much looking forward to this character. I think that he is going to be the best sustained for attack scaling teams, meaning that he's going to go off with Feixiao, he's going to go off with Acheron, he's going to go off with Herta, and one of the best things about him is that he synergizes with Robin and Sunday, which is ridiculous. Everyone talks about his synergy with Sunday, which is obvious, but the fact that nobody talks about his synergy with Robin is utterly ridiculous to me. Robin obviously is the greatest attack scaling support in the game, and if you have Robin, Sunday, and this character on the same team, you basically have one of the best attack shells you will ever be able to craft. And one of the best things about this character is allegedly he's going to be free. So yeah, if you were smart with your pools and you knew how to invest correctly, you've been playing for a long time, then you should have Sunday, you should have Robin, and once you get this character, you can basically slot those 3 characters into any attack-based team, and they will most likely run over all the content in the game without question. So with all that out the way, yeah, I'm pretty sure that he's going to be tier 0. Moving on to amplifiers. Unfortunately, Jiaoqiu had to be moved down to tier 1. I did pull for this character just to sort of prove that he's not Acheron's best in slot and that he's a skippable character. From my perspective, that remains to be true. He is nowhere near as close to being a, I guess, good investment from my perspective. I think that skipping this character and just pulling for Cipher would have been a better decision for the overwhelming majority of players, but most players didn't do that. They folded and pulled for him. The only reason why I pulled him was just to prove a point. I said the best way for me to prove that this character is not all that great is if I pull him myself and actually test him. Worst case scenario, I'm wrong. Oh wow, I end up with a best in slot for one of my favorite DPSs, which is Acheron. Who cares, right? So I ended up pulling for him, 1 to 50-50, but I don't really need this character. I have Cipher, so I guess unless I'm going to be using, Acheron on one team and then using Feixiao on another team in which my Cipher also wants to be on my Feixiao team, there's not a lot of reasons to have this character from my perspective. So I'm putting him at tier 1. Moving on to Tribbie, I very much dislike this character. I think this is a bait character. A lot of people think that I'm crazy for saying that, and that is perfectly fine. I do have a video that I want to make on her, but I require significant motivation personally in order to make that video, because just thinking about it irritates the hell out of me. So putting her at tier 0.5, not saying she's bad or implying that she's bad. I just don't think she's nearly as good as everyone has been gassing her up to be. So tier 0.5. Moving on to Fugue. Also tier 0.5. Again, Super Break is going to be getting a buff, so her value is going to be improving. I wanted her to be meta with Super Break Acheron. I wanted that comp to be meta, but all the testing that I've done has proven that it's not really doable. Cipher with Robin is definitely Acheron's best comp, but even though I was wrong about that, I am not wrong about her value. She is insanely good with Anaxa right now, and she is only going to get better with all the Super Break supports once 3.8 rolls around and once the 4.x's roll around. So if you pull for Fugue and you haven't been able to use her as much as you would like, don't worry about it. Her time is going to come again where she is going to shine. Like I said, just save up your resources and wait it out. Putting her at tier 0.5. Moving on to Cerydra. I was estimating that she was going to be tier 0. The thing that's funny is that Pridewind currently has her reflected as tier 0, which is obviously BS. I can't believe that they unironically think this character is tier 0. Legitimately, if you don't own Phynon and if you don't own Anaxa, this character is not that much of an upgrade over any other characters that you have, and even for those two characters, she is not the best unit for them. I think the only unit that she might be able to be quote-unquote a best in slot for is Phynon, and if she is, it's not by a lot. You unironically could just run a Bronya with a Sunday with a Robin in the last slot and still do just fine. But she is a nice unit. At the very least, she's not broken. I don't have an issue with characters coming out that have a niche and are balanced, and I like her character in the story and I like her design. It's just that me personally, I don't have any reason to pull for her, and I don't think that she is worthy of tier 0. Therefore, I'm putting her in tier 0.5. Moving on to, we'll say Silverwolf. Silverwolf was in a very bad spot for a very long time, which was of no surprise to me. I called it all the way back before she came out. I said that she was going to fall off, and she was going to fall off quickly, because why the hell would you pull for a single target RNG debuffer? The fact that the community thought that that was going to be future-proof is unironically super insane, but that's what happens when you just use mob mentality to justify your opinions. Fortunately for all those people, they end up being unintentionally correct, because they end up buffing the shit out of her, and now she is easily one of the best amplifiers in the entire game. It's not close. There's no argument about it. She's really good. Therefore, tier 0. Moving on to Sunday. Tier 0. Very good. His value is only going to improve with time. I can't see this character ever being bad. I mean, he provides you free crit rate, crit damage, 100% action advance, advance of summons. He's nuts. What else can I say? Tier 0. Pretty easy decision for me to make. Moving on to the Remembrance Trailblazer. Putting them at tier 0. I know that Cyrene is coming out, and I, for a very long time, had them at tier 0.5, anticipating that Cyrene was going to be coming out. But I think that this character is just so good for a free unit. Heavy emphasis for a free unit, kind of deserve to be in tier 0, even with Cyrene's existence. The fact that you can literally hop on the game and just by playing get a character that's this strong and is this universal is kind of nuts. So I'm putting them at tier 0. Moving on to Cipher. I think Cipher is definitely one of the most disrespected amplifier units of all time. Weirdly enough, the energy that Silverwolf got when she came out initially is the energy that I think Cipher should have gotten, and she didn't. She is literally one of the lowest pulled units of all time in this game. I think second lowest in terms of revenue, which is utterly ridiculous to me. She is insane in Memory of Chaos. She is insane in Apoc Shadow. And she's even nuts in frickin' Pure Fiction. That's right. Pure Fiction. I have literally been using her with Acheron, Castorice, and a whole bunch of other units, and easily 40K'ing it. Like, you literally can't make this shit up. She's really, really good in every mode, without question. I've tested it extensively. I don't care if you don't believe me. I know what I saw. I don't have any reason to lie. I think that a lot of people are going to regret not pulling for her. She is definitely, easily, one of the best amplifiers in the entire game, without question. And yes, I am putting her above Tribbie. Again, gotta make a separate video if I had the motivation to do that, to explain why. Moving on to Sparkle. We're moving her to tier 1. She's alright, I guess. Not bad, but not worth the Jades from my perspective, unless you played the long game and waited for Archer. But there's no way that anybody knew that she was going to synergize with Archer a year in advance. So sheer happenstance. Regardless, even with how good Archer is, I don't care. I'm not putting her up in tier 0.5 because of her synergy with legitimately one unit. And D-Hill, he's not bad, but he's obviously not that meta. So aside from those two units, doesn't have a lot of places to shine. For that reason, putting her in tier 1. Now, for the last tier 0 slot, you guys should already know who I'm going to be putting here, and that is none other than Cyrene. She is expected to be a generalist support buffer and to have very, very good synergy with the Chrysos heirs. This unit is the reason why I was saying I don't trust Tribbie. I think that she is going to be way better than Tribbie and will most likely end up going down as being a top 3 amplifier all time in this game. I'm not talking about for this version, and I'm not talking about for next version. I'm literally talking about for the entire longevity of this game. Top 3. Not bullshitting. That is how good she is projected to be. And her sales projections based off of the internal data that Huohuo has, from what I heard, is like S+, which is one of the, I think it might be the highest ratings for sales. So they are expecting this character to blow every unit aside from maybe Castorice out the water in terms of sales. That's how well they expect her to sell. And there is very, very good reason for them to believe that. It's not just because she's an XP. She is incredibly important to this arc, and she needs to be good. If she comes out and she somehow is less valuable than Tribbie of all characters, I guarantee you there are going to be a lot of people that are going to be angry about it. So I'm expecting her to be tier 0 and will inevitably end up being in Trailblazer tier, but she hasn't come out yet. Hasn't been 6 months, so I'm not putting her there yet. Moving on to Rame. And Robin. Just going to get them both out the way. For people that are subscribed to my channel, you know how I feel about these characters. These are my GOATs. I've had them ever since they came out. I have both of them E1, S1. I am not basing my judgment off of that Just want to be clear. But after those characters came out, they changed this game, especially Ron May. Ron May, when she came out, changed the game for Harmony Amplifier. She was the most broken Harmony limited 5-star to have ever come out. And to this day, she is still one of the most overtuned in the game. Free speed, break efficiency, res pen, damage bonus, break delay. It's stupid. This character is stupid. With super break getting a buff, her value only improves further. And oh, guess what? You can get her for free. I'm done. That's all I have to say about her. Trailblazer tier. Moving on to Robin. A lot of people disrespected Robin when she came out. People thought she was going to be outright worse than Ron May, which is stupid. They are both very good for very different reasons, and I use both of them on either sides of my runs in every single endgame mode. Anytime that you see me create a team, Ron May is on one team, Robin's on the other team. Have not needed anyone else. That's how good both of these characters are. That's the reason why both of them are Trailblazer tier. That's it. Alright, moving on to Sub-DPS. Jade. Only thing I use her for is pure fiction and farming. She has some interesting synergy with the new Dan Heng, and they killed it. So there's not a lot of space for her to move from here. Just going to be tier 1. Cipher. Yeah, her sub DPS is not that great. For some reason, Pridewind has her, or at least had her at tier 0. I don't know what crack they're smoking, but she has no personal damage to speak of, and no, her ultimate does not count because it's not her damage. It is literally recorded damage. That cannot be counted towards her personal damage. And if you think her recorded damage should be treated as her personal damage, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm sorry. Ultimate, it's literally not her damage. And that's the way that it's coded. If you take the ultimate and you do it at no recorded damage, at 0, it does nothing. Less than nothing. And her multipliers for her follow-up and all of her other attacks are mediocre. So her primary reasons for you having her on the team is to record damage and turn to true damage, and to get that free 40% vulnerability and some additional defense shred once you get her signature light cone, or if you use an SI5 pearls. Outside of that, you don't pull this character for sub DPS. Period. Not arguing with anybody about it. Moving on to Tribbie. She's kind of similar to Cipher in that I don't think you should be pulling for her personal damage, even though that is basically her entire kit, so it makes it worse. Her sub DPS is good only in very specific scenarios. If the enemies on the field at all times is 3 to 5, then it's decent, bordering on good. However, the instant that it's 1 to 2, her damage falls off dramatically. Also, if the enemies are not quantum weak, her damage falls off even further, unfortunately. So, for that reason, I'm putting her at tier 1. The only place where she consistently has good sub DPS is in pure fiction. Everywhere else is incredibly suspect and is very, very circumstantial. Not putting her anywhere close to tier 0. Again, don't know what the hell Pridewind was smoking. Tier 1 is where she goes. Moving on to Anaxa. Oh, reliable. Definitely been consistent with his DPS capabilities, whether it be 1 to 2 or 3 to 5. And for that reason, I put him in tier 0.5. Now, Evernight is an interesting case They have been buffing her sub-DPS capabilities, and they definitely want her to be a sub-DPS. That's what it looks like to me. Now the question is she going to be a generically good sub-DPS, or is she going to be a only on HP teams a good sub-DPS? If I had to guess, it's only going to really be on HP teams, and it's only going to be specifically if you have Hyacine on the team. For that reason, I'm putting her at tier 0.5. I'm expecting her to have good sub DPS capabilities, but nothing to... I don't know if it's anything to necessarily write home about. She is going to do very well on Castorice teams. Whether or not she is going to be hot on any other teams aside from that team is up for debate. So I'm going to put her at tier 0.5. Moving on to the DPS, which is going to be insanely agonizing for me to do, but we're going to try to speed our way through this. I'm going to put Dr. Ratio down here. Fortunately, there's not really a lot going on with this guy. Single target is not the wave right now, and if you're going to be single target, you wouldn't want to be Dr. Ratio. Sorry, my voice was giving out a little bit. You just don't want to be Dr. Ratio right now. We'll put it that way. So I'm gonna put him at tier 1.5. Moving on to Boothill. With Super Break being buffed, I'll move him up to tier 1. I might change that later. I might put him back to tier 0.5 because that's where I had him before. But for the time being, I'm going to put him at tier 1. He is a very good single target unit. But because of where Super Break is, it's in a very precarious situation. I don't want to jump the gun and put him back to tier 0.5 and then I'm having to retract it literally a video later and putting him back down to tier 1. So we're going to put him at tier 1. I'm going to think about it while I'm placing everyone else. So moving on to Firefly. She sucks. She's a fraud. She now needs buffs, and she is going to be getting buffs from what I heard in the 4.x's. I just find it hilarious that Firefly mains were talking all this shit, saying that she was the best free-to-play DPS in the game. She was better than Feixiao. I made a video saying that Feixiao was a much better DPS than Firefly. Oh, guess what? I was right. Firefly is ass. And because she's so ass, they have to give her buffs and give her a whole new support in order for her to pop off again. So until that support comes out, she's tier 1.5. I think that until she actually gets some buffs, I don't think the support is going to be game changing for her, even with the shilling. So I'm going to leave her at tier 1.5. Maybe I'll have a change of heart before I'm done with this tier list. But I can't stand this character. I hate this character with a passion. Not in the game. I'm talking about specifically how she was designed from a kit's perspective. I don't like this character at all. So putting her at tier 1.5. Moving on to Yunli. I think that she's still a very solid unit. She's one of the most solid and consistent units in the game. She obviously does well in Memory of Chaos. She does well in Apoc Shadow, and she is, I would say, situationally good in Pure Fiction. So I'm going to put her at tier 1. Same thing with Mydei. Not really a bad unit, but definitely not insane either. He's just a good, well-balanced unit. So I'm going to put him at tier 1 as well. Moving on to Kafka. Putting her at tier 1 as well. I know that she got buffed. I know that Dot is on the come up. I don't care. I think that Dot is going to fall off again. I don't trust Dot. Never have trusted Dot. And will never trust Dot until they allow Dots to crit. Until that happens, don't care that much about it. I anticipate that within the next 3 patches or so, maybe 4 patches, that this is going to be a thing of the past. This right now is the new wave. It's what everybody is raving about. I anticipate that by the time that 3.8 rolls around, nobody's going to care about Dot again. It's going to go back to being in a ditch. So tier 1 is where I'm going to put Kafka. Moving on to Blade. Gonna put him at tier 1. He got some very good buffs and obviously has the benefit of getting all of the HP buffs that comes with having Tribbie in the game, with having Hyacine in the game, and now with Evernight coming into the game, is a possibility that he could become even better. But we don't know. So I'm going to put him at tier 1, but I will be watching him with great interest. Moving on to, we'll start with the Herta. I had her at tier 1. I'm going to slot her up to tier 0.5. I think that with the addition of Don Hung PT, and if he's actually free, I think having the synergy of, again, Robin, Sunday, and him will be a pretty good combination. Not the best combination, but a good combination. And the more options that she has, the more synergies that she has, the better off that she can be. So if you're able to pop off with that and then also be able to sub out those characters and put on an Anaxa and put on a Jade or put in a Tribbie and still pop off, I think that's good for her. And because she continues to get essentially side grades, I'm going to put her at tier 0.5. Again, if it wasn't for this man right here, I would probably leave her at tier 1, but I'm expecting that with him being there, she should get a little bit better as well, since she's an attack scaling unit. Gonna put her at tier 0.5. Acheron, think that she has been pretty disrespected by the community at large. I get that this is an E0 S0 tier list, but even without her having her signature light cone, she is still a very strong unit. I continue to use her to this day. I continue to invest into her, and I haven't regretted it for a day. She can still zero cycle. She can still 40k pure fiction. She can still get 3,700 plus runs in Apocalyptic Shadow. Worst case, 3,500 plus runs. Overall is a very solid unit and has never really been bad. So yeah, I'm going to put her at tier 0.5. Moving on to Jinglu. I think that Jinglu is a very, very good DPS. I love Jinglu. I have made a lot of videos showcasing Jinglu. I think these buffs have made her massively better. And I think that with Hyacine being out and with the addition of Evernight, potentially she has the capacity of being a good secondary HP scaling DPS outside of the inevitable, we're just going to throw Castorice at everything comp. So you basically can take Castorice out, put Jinglu with the exact same comp, and even though she won't perform as well as Castorice, she will still do fairly well. So I'm going to put her at tier 0.5. Moving on to Hysilens. Again, I'm only doing this for right now. I do not trust this path, or at least not this path, this archetype at all. Not even in the slightest. I think that this is going to fall off again. The only way I'm going to be convinced otherwise is if Dots can crit. Until then, don't care much about this archetype. I'm going to put her at tier 0.5 only to not be too mean. But if I had to be real, I am expecting her to fall off into tier 1 category within the next 3 patches or so. Moving on to Evernight. I think Evernight, her main DPS capabilities got shot. So, gotta put her at tier 0.5. Thought that she was going to be another Anaxa type unit who is like strong sub-DPS, but an even stronger carry. And I'm not sure about how good her carry is now that they have very clearly drawn their foot in the sand. They drew their line and they have buffed her sub-DPS capabilities, but they nerfed her main DPS capabilities, her hyper carry capabilities. And so I had her at tier 0. With that information, I'm going to have to put her at tier 0.5. This could change if Cyrene comes out and she is way, way better for Evernight than I could possibly predict. So, we'll see. Gonna put her at tier 0.5 for now. Moving on, I'm going to put Saber in tier 0. I folded and pulled for her. She is an insanely fun unit, very, very powerful, and because she works with some of the best supports in the game, I mean, what else is there for me to say about that? Plus the new synergy with Dan Heng. She's going to be nice for a very long time. That's really all I can say. Does well in Pure Fiction, does well in Memory Chaos, does well in Apoc Shadow. Putting her at tier 0. Moving on to Anaxa. I cannot deny this man any longer. I gotta put him at tier 0. He is so goddamn good. I didn't expect for him to be this good. Never expected him to be this good because of how hard he got hit. Everybody knows, you know, a lot of people were very sad when he got hit with all these nerfs. But it doesn't matter. Like, he works well in Super Break for some reason. He does well with Cerydra, does well with Sunday, does well here, does well with Tribbie. He's just really good. And because he is so flexible, because he does so well in not only 1 to 2 scenarios, but 3 to 5s, I think that he is way more versatile, especially with no signature than the Herta, definitely more so than Acheron. And yeah, I mean, he's just a great unit. I'm gonna put him at tier 0. We'll wait. I am hesitant to put this man in tier 0. Because he is definitely very, very strong, but the problem is that he's situationally strong. Very situationally strong. But he has been performing very, very well for those that have invested into him. So let me think about that. I'm putting him in tier 0 right now, but I gotta think about it a little bit further. Definitely going to put Fine on there. Very good unit. One of the only units that can consistently run sustainless. And I think the last one for tier 0 is going to be Aglaea. I think Aglaea is one of those units that has kind of aged like fine wine, kind of like how she has in game. She works with a lot of different units. She works well with Tribbie, she works well with Robin, works well with Sunday. Essentially the usual suspects. And then also works well with, remember, Trailblazer, works well with Cyrene, I'm assuming. And is going to do well with Dan Heng PT. So I definitely believe that she is a top 5 DPS in the game, and she will definitely get more respect very soon. I can say for certain she is the best lightning DPS in the game as well. at E0, S0, because there are so many different characters that fill in her weaknesses that you can justify putting her in tier 0 in ways that you can't justify putting Acheron in tier 0. So I'm going to put her there. And for our last two units, Feixiao, my GOAT, been consistently strong ever since I got her. Ever since I got her. The only place where she has a weakness is in pure fiction. Nowhere else. And Memory of Chaos, she is still a absolute menace. And an APOC Shadow, she's an even bigger menace. And with the new mode that's going to be coming out, she's going to eat. She's going to go off. Obviously only needs Robin really to function at full power, but with Dan Heng PT, she is just going to become even better. With Cipher's release, she has become even better, and she's just going to continue to age well as long as follow-up supports keep coming into the game, and attack-based supports come into the game, and units that have high attack frequency come into the game. She is going to be very, very, very good for a very, very long time. Again, I said this like 6+ months ago. She is one of the best free-to-play friendly DPSs in the game. People thought that I was tripping. Thought I didn't know what I was talking about. Well, as I said, us Feixiao mains are not begging for buffs. Firefly mains, on the other hand, is a completely different story. So I stand on this. I think that she's Trailblazer tier. My tier list, that's where she's going. Now, even though it has not been 6 months yet, it will be 6 months from my math. It should be October 8th is when 6 months should pass since her release. I am bending my own rules and I'm putting her in Trailblazer tier anyway. I don't think that there's really any point of, holding out and waiting. Guys, she's not getting any worse. The developers are just like handing her buff after buff after support after support after buff after support like they're hotcakes. They don't give a shit. They are glaringly biased in favor of their one of their favorite children, which is Castorice for some reason, and she just keeps getting better with time. With the release of Evernight, she is going to become massively more consistent, and with Cyrene coming out, she is expected to be a top 3 carry in the game probably for the next 6 months. And considering the fact that she's already been dominating everything already, she dominates Memory of Chaos, she dominates Pure Fiction, she dominates APOC Shadow, and she's most definitely going to dominate the new mode. There's no question about it. She's a Trailblazer. Trailblazer tier. I don't think anyone can really argue with me about this. I am not being biased. This is just straight objective reality. She is disgusting. There is very few units that are better than her, and I would say right now, she probably is the top 1 DPS in the game. So even though I have Feixiao before her, in my opinion, she is the best DPS in the game. Not even close. So with all that said, let's move on to the pool recommendations. Alright, moving on to pool recommendations. One of the new revisions that I made is that I am including characters' pool value up to E2. Before, I was sort of leaving it as E0 only, but I realized it's not really fair because free-to-play players obviously can do vertical investment as well. I don't own any E2 characters, but I definitely own multiple E1s. So, with that being said, I think that it's fair to at least do up to E2, because for people that do vertical investments, that's usually where they stop at. So, with that out the way, pause, read this. Pause, read this. And we are going to go straight into it. Don't want to waste time. Starting off with Don Hung. I definitely think that he is a should pull. Obviously, he's expected to be free. But even with him being free, I think that if you invest into him well vertically, again, he is going to be your de facto attack scaling sustain. And he's going to be a really good one at that. If they had allowed him to keep his synergies with other units, on top of having everything he has right now, he would legitimately be like the best. He would just be the best shooter probably for a ridiculously long time. And I think the developers were scared of making him too overpowered because it's very difficult to balance preservation characters, or at least for them, I think they find it very difficult to balance preservation characters as a reason why there's so few of them. For that reason, going to put him at should pull. I'm not really going to argue with anyone about this. If you skip for Cyrene, I'm sorry, if you skip Cyrene, foolish is really all I can say. It's the same logic for why I told people to pull for Robin. A lot of people skipped Robin. Okay, that's what you want to do. I don't care. But I do think if you skip a character like Robin, if you skip a character like Cyrene, and then later on you start struggling, that's on you. I don't care. I'm trying to tell you as a free-to-play player who I think are insanely good value, and to me, this is one of those characters. I don't value any DPS as being a must pull. I don't value any sub DPS as being must pulls, and I don't value any sustains as being a must pull. But to me, there are must pull amplifiers, and Cyrene is one of them. So if you don't pull for this character, I don't know what to tell you. Me personally, I'm going to attempt to get E1 S1, even though I have folded a lot and pulled for characters that I didn't intend to pull. I've gotten very lucky, and I am able to basically get all of my resources back fairly quickly because of the events that Hoyoverse has been dropping, and on top of that, I skipped 3.5. So I'm going to have my E0 S1 Evernight, and I'm going to have my E1 S1 Cyrene if I get lucky. Moving on to the sub DPS. Speaking of Evernight, as I said, I'm pulling her for E0 S1. Even though I'm using Cipher in my sub DPS slot for Castorice, I need that slot freed up, like expeditiously, especially with this new mode upcoming. And that's one of the primary reasons why I'm pulling for Evernight. There are so many of my teams that want Cipher and need Cipher, and everybody can't have Cipher. So that's what I'm pulling her for. I think that if you're running HP scaling teams, you should pick this character up. She is going to be very good. There are a lot of people that are saying this character is bait. Those people are goofy, trying to make this seem like this is some sort of IQ test, which is very, very funny, considering the fact that these are probably the same people that said that you should skip Robin because you have Rame, the same people that said that Silverwolf was going to be this future-proof unit, and then she ended up being trash. Same people that said that, ooh, Firefly is the best free-to-play unit, or DPS in the game, blah, blah, blah. Now she needs buffs. Listen, Evernight is going to be good. She's not bait. She's not a trap. If you're going to listen to this narrative, because players love creating narratives. Ooh, this character is bait. This character is bait. I view Tribbie as being bait. And I think a lot of Tribbie owners right now are 100% are coping because we know, they know, that Tribbie is going to be on the downfall. Again, we are expected to go into a super break meta, a place that Tribbie has no place in, and she's definitely not going to be the best HP support because Hyacine has that role. So she is going to be in a very precarious situation and a couple of patches where I'm expecting that within the next 3 months, she is going to be relegated to being a, I hate to say it, a pure fiction jockey. I know that sounds ridiculous, but I think unironically that Tribbie is basically going to be the Jade of amplifiers. Again, I have to make a whole video about that. I know that sounds insane. I know it does. I know it sounds crazy. But I have a pretty good track record at being correct. I get stuff wrong, but not often. And that's the reason why I need to make the video, so that I can explain in further detail. So, I do not believe Evernight is bait. I think that you should pull her if you want to pull her. That's where I'm going to leave it at that. Obviously, Anaxa, one of the new goats of the game, gets a should pull. He's just really good. You can use him very easily in Sub-DPS. He works in a variety of different teams and is very, very flexible. The fact that he works well in Super Break and also works well in crit-based teams as well makes him extremely valuable right now. Should pull all the way. Duh. I'm not even explaining myself there. If you still need to be convinced to pull Castorice, you're lost. I mean, you can still pull Saber. She'll still be around, I'm expecting, in 3.7. She'll definitely be available next patch. But if you still want to pull her, I mean, she's still there. She is going to go away eventually. So if you like Saber and you want a strong DPS to go into, I think that you should pull her. But if you have Anaxa already, I don't think that you should be compelled to pull her. Anaxa really is like one of the only win DPSs that you'll probably ever need from an AoE perspective. So you can pick Saber, you can pick Anaxa. It's really up to you. You gotta do your own research on that one. You can still invest in Archer, but he kind of feels like he's conditionally good right now. I don't know if he's going to be insane for the rest of this version, but we'll see. I'm going to put him in Comfort Pool, and as a main DPS, I'm putting Evernight here. I don't think that you should be pulling her for main DPS reasons. If you're looking for a ice main DPS to go into, to hyper invest into, I would not go super far into her. I would unironically prefer that you go into either Herta or Jinglu. I think those would be better investments to go into, especially for Jinglu, since she is going to end up using the exact same teams that Evernight is going to be using anyway. But it depends. It depends on whether or not Cyrene is going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread for Evernight specifically. I know that she's going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread generally, but I don't know how great the synergy is going to be between Cyrene and her specifically for hyper carries where she is the main DPS. In case there is anything that I miss, because I'm basically going off of one of my own sources, and this is obviously predictive, if there are any revisions that I have to make, I'll add them later. But for the time being, I'm just going to show you guys the full list. I'm going to upload this into my community posts. So if you want to screenshot this right now, go ahead, and you can feel free to laugh at me if any of my predictions are wrong in the future, but you don't have to really do that. It'll be in my community post. And of course, full screen this. Yeah, I think that the upcoming characters have a lot of value, and I think that I think people should be on the lookout for a Cyrene. Definitely, you should be saving your resources for her. If you haven't, I don't know what to tell you, dude. I try. I really try. I think that the only character that I might have overestimated in the past video, well, not the past video, but the past tier list that I made that I didn't make a video on, was Cerydra. I had her as a should pull, and I had her at tier 0, but I don't think anyone really looked at my post regarding that, so I guess it's just as well that I didn't post that video, because I do not feel the same way at all. But that's the part about making these type of videos. They're very, very speculative. That's the reason why it's predictive. I could be very, very correct, and also very, very wrong. I can literally get 80 to 90% of my predictions correct, and then get 10 to 20% glaringly off, like disgustingly off. So I always recommend that people do their own research, make decisions for yourself. Don't use me as your only source. Obviously, jump around and find other sources that you can bounce off of and get recommendations off of before making your final decision. If you like the video, like, subscribe. Your boy Ars is out. Alright, so apparently a lot can change in 9 days. I just watched the live stream, and it turns out that my source was correct. Donhung PT is going to be free, so yay for us. Cyrene is coming out in 3.7. They already did the drip marketing for that. But after looking at a lot of gameplay, and I mean a lot, a disgusting amount of gameplay for Evernight, I am making some changes, especially given the fact that we're getting another freaking permanent game mode. I couldn't fucking believe it. Not only are we going to be getting the anomaly arbitration, but they dropped a completely different freaking mode that's going to have like special animations and shit, where it's like you use 10 characters at a time. What the fuck? I heard absolutely zero about that. Nothing at all. Maybe I'm out the loop and I'm lost. I heard nothing about this shit. I don't know what's going on in this game, but things are happening. For the tier list, I'm changing it. The big change is I'm putting Evernight back in tier 0 for hyper carry, and I'm putting Archer back down to tier 0.5. I think that Evernight is going to be another Anaxa. I didn't think that was going to be possible. I thought that after they had made the changes that they made to her, that they were very clear that they were going to go in the direction of her being a sub-DPS primarily. That is literally the exact same thing they did to Anaxa. But for some reason, just like Anaxa, she is still insanely strong in hyper carry scenarios, even if you don't have Hyacine. And the fact that she is this strong without having Cyrene yet makes absolutely no fucking sense. Evernight is looking very, very scary right now. And I think the people that have been calling for her to basically be skipped and saying that she is bait and all this other stupid shit, you better immediately start retracting your statements because you're going to look really goddamn stupid once she comes out. And I said this, back 9/3, September 3rd. I said that I think that people were, trying to downplay her because they're coping because they made bad decisions. Evernight is not just going to be attached to Castorice. She is not just going to be on, basically living and dying by that one comp. She has a lot of potential in different comps and with different synergies. Obviously, primarily is going to be in HP related synergies, but even without Castorice, if you use the same team that Castorice is using, she is going to be strong as hell, and you can use different alternative team comps as well, and she's going to be strong. I think that a lot of people that were saying that she needed to be skipped or that she was bait, again, need to immediately retract their statements. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about. There's a lot of people that are waffling right now. If somebody comes to you, I don't care if they're a quote unquote reputable source or a theory craft or whatever. If somebody comes to you and says, yeah, this character is just, ass skippable, whatever the fuck, carefully consider looking at actual gameplay from her with different team comps. There are people that are legitimately not even that crazy at the game that have made just very compelling showcases using her. And again, no Cyrene yet. Once Cyrene comes out, that's when her full potential is likely to come out. Of course, this is all theoretical. I could be wrong. But I genuinely believe with my whole heart that she is going to be tier 0 even as a main hyper carry DPS. So that's my major change. No beef against Archer. I think that maybe with an E2 Archer versus E2 March, maybe he's better there. But from an E0 S0 perspective, 1,000,000% Evernight from a main DPS perspective is better than him. So that's the reason why he goes down to tier 0.5, and that's the reason why she is going back to being tier 0. For her sub DPS, I think I'm going to leave it where it's at. I do believe that she will be a stronger hyper carry than she is a sub DPS. Again, just like Anaxa. I can't believe it either. It sounds ridiculous to me too. I know the words that are coming out of my mouth sound fucking ridiculous. This is just my opinion. This is my perspective. Moving on to the revisions that I made for the pool tier list. So I had Castorice and Anaxa. My source got it half correct. Anaxa is 100% going to be rerunning, but not Castorice. So they put in the Herta. Comfort pool, I said that it would be preferable for you to pull for the Herta or Jinglu over Evernight. Obviously, my opinion has changed based off of that rant that I just went on. And I think that she is a should pull from a main DPS perspective and a sub DPS perspective. I hope you fellas saved. That's really all I can say. I hope you fellas saved. I hope you saved for Evernight if you wanted her. I hope you saved for Cyrene if you knew she was going to be coming out eventually. I think Evernight and Cyrene are going to be really ridiculous. I'm so glad that Dan Heng PT is going to be free. So if you need a strong attack scaling support or sustain, I should say, congratulations, you're going to get one. And if you want to invest him even further, get his signature light cone, which is supposed to be really good, and also invest in Hysilens, which are also supposed to be pretty good, you can do that as well. So those are my major changes. I'm very, 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 very gassed for the future of this game. I am very much looking forward to pulling Evernight E0 S1 myself. I am going to try to get Cyrene at E1 S1. I skipped all of 3.5. I didn't pull for Hysilens, obviously, and I wasn't pulling for Cerydra. I was saving and preparing for this. Preparing for Evernight, preparing for Cyrene. And I'm very glad that I did. I thought that I was going to be in a very, very precarious situation because I made a bunch of pulls that I didn't intend to pull throughout this throughout this version. But oh man, I'm lucky. Luckily, I'm lucky as a free to play, or I would be very, very pressed about not having the resources I need in order to pull what I want moving forward. Again, I hope you guys are prepped for what's coming, because this new mode that's coming out, the anomaly arbitration, plus this new other in-game mode, shit's gonna pop off in this game very soon. So I'm going to be making content obviously associated with that. And additionally, I still want to make my video talking about Tribbie. That is probably going to be further along down the line. That's all I can say. I don't want to ramble any further. Moving out of here, getting out of here. Your boy Rs is out. For real this time.